Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back at you with another video. Sorry for those who might watch on YouTube if it took me a while to get started. The Facebook one, for some reason, it seems to take a bit longer, even though I pressed go live or go live earlier. So that I'm hoping that it catches up, but it still takes a bit longer for some reason, or it seems to take longer. Maybe it goes live without me realizing. But anyway, as ever, I'll try not to waffle. I'm back at you with part 3, the third and penultimate part of my shopping list for Celtic for Christmas. So I hope football fans, especially Celtic fans and fans of Italian football as well, check out this video. I've done quite well with my exercises today because I was running a bit late, but I planned that for today, due to my patterns, I suppose, as it's the 8th and it's a Friday, I thought for Fitness Friday, keep activated and that kind of thing, I went to I was going to say the town I went to, but I'll leave my location just in case for safety reasons, but health and safety and all that, privacy and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't like everyone to know where I live, or just in case I'm not as out there. But I walked, I'd say 2, 3, maybe 4 miles to a place where I go to a church group where they have, it's not a religious group, like all sorts of people, even me, I'm not religious, but even people like me go there. Some of them are religious and some are not. But they serve a meal from about 1 p.m. and then we play bingo and stuff like that. And I thought I wouldn't be into bingo. I thought just for old people. I'm not that quite old yet. I'm not quite that old yet. But I kind of enjoy it and get to meet interesting people. Some of them are cooler than others, to be fair. But yeah, it's all a bit of a laugh. But yeah, I had a good exercise, going for a walk, had a few jokes, something to eat, which I probably needed because I walked all the way back. So that's between 4 to 6, 4 to 6 miles, I'd say. Today I've walked about 4 to 6 miles. You can see my stomach. You probably can't see the angle, but I'm quite fat, so not too bad. For once I moved my fat body, I was going to say. And then I went to the gym for about an hour or so. I did take a few breaks, but considering I haven't really been going to the gym for that much, for a while, that much, I think I did quite well. A lot of time when I like to go to the gym, sorry, I'm giving my life story again, but just want to say when I go to the gym, a lot of the time it's what was I going to say? I like to go at night before they close about 10. So sometimes I like to go for an hour or so by about 9. So I get about half an hour to 45 minutes of training. Try and keep fit, but the problem is the next day I'm absolutely knackered. So knackered means tired for those outside the UK. I think it's a London term, Cockney term, as they say. But yeah, so it's probably good that I went early. But the reason why I like to go at night is because there's less. I'm hoping there's less people, because I do suffer from social anxiety sometimes, and also I just like to have a bit more space. But luckily it wasn't too packed the time I went. I think if I went at lunchtime it could be too packed, I don't know, but or after people finish work, about 5 or 6, or between 6 and 7 or whatever, or 5 to 7 or whatever. But yeah, so hopefully I won't be too tired tomorrow comparative to if I went at night time. Anyway, sorry, I'm going to try and get to the point, I promise. But one thing I was going to say is, talking about Christmas shopping lists and wish lists and things like that, I dream for people to support my channel at Christmas, which means hopefully listening to me waffle on just because it's Christmas. But on my YouTube channel, I'm at 66 subscribers, which is not as good as I'd like, but I welcome and I thank those 66 subscribers. I always welcome and hope for more. But it's funny because 67 is a key year for Celtic, because in the year 1967 obviously, but we say 67 for short, Celtic won what is the equivalent of the Champions League. So it would be interesting if I got up to 67, but obviously I would love to have way more than that. I was hoping to have a lot more, but I suppose my content is a bit sort of niche or whatever. It's not to everyone's taste or interest. But anyway, I'm going to crack on with my dreams for Celtic and get to the point. But I thought I'd add a bit of humour there and say Christmas time or December means people should try and people should support my stupid little channel as a Christmas present and listen to me waffle. Oh, not really. You can do whatever you want, I suppose, kind of. But anyway, I'm going to stop waffling. Here goes. So these are ideas number 21 to 30. I nearly said 11 to 20, but here goes. So number 21, as the saying goes, I know I always say this one, but 21 again. I would love for people to find out about Celtic's great history. Some of it I'm not too keen on. As I said before, I'm not too keen on the IRA sort of stuff and some other things that happen in the club, which I don't want to go into at this moment in time. But there are some things I don't quite agree with Celtic. But overall, I think it's a great history, and a history of people who have overcome oppression from Ireland. It's an anti-imperial history. So as I often say, a victory for Celtic is a victory for anti-imperialism, as I hope to come to. Number 22, I'd love to see what Celtic can do in the future, how they can, as I said in part 2, how they can change, what they could do to advance, maybe have a director of football, look at improving the scouting system, the recruitment system, stop any nepotism, or at least try to limit it as much as possible. For instance, Peter Lowell, I think his son is it Mark Lowell? I can't quite remember, but I don't think that's right, but I'm not so sure. But anyway, Mark Lowell, or his name is, might be Mark Lowell. Anyway, I think people say his recruitment and scouting hasn't been that great. In fact, it's been pretty poor. So maybe getting a better scouting system, making sure it's the best person for the job, not any sort of nepotism, not choosing your relatives or friends or anyone like that. People who are more qualified for the job, not even just fans. Being a fan might help a little bit, because obviously, or a fair amount, because you have what's in the best interest of the club. But if they have performance-related pay, then it inspires them to do better. So looking at the better scouting, recruitment, and that kind of thing, I think that's really important. Just like finances, obviously you need finances to do a lot of that nowadays, but and for the longest time really. But again, seeing what the club can do for the future, how it can go into the future. Some things that maybe worked in the past might not work in the future. Some people even say Brendan Rodgers' tactics are a bit stale, but as ever, I'd love to hear what fans think about that. But obviously, we've got this new manager. I don't think we can change him just yet, and hopefully he will come good in the end, as long as he wins the league. I think that's the main thing at the moment. Even before the season started, I sort of said, as long as Celtic win a couple, I actually wanted Celtic to win 3 trophies, to win a treble, but I wasn't really bothered about Europe for the first season. I think that's a sort of pass this season, although improvements are needed probably on that area as well. But again, what can Celtic do to become a good modern club, and stop any outdated practices, or at least limit them as much as possible, and look at how they can continue to improve in the future, and look at 5 to 10 year plans, and where the club can go, how it can improve, for instance, maybe in Europe, and things like that. Or even if it does something well, how could it do it even better? And certainly things that are not done well, how can they be improved, so the club continues to improve for the future? As I mentioned before, it'd be great for those involved in the club, like the co-owners, anyone who has shares, equity, or whatever in the club, owners and whatnot, talking about their 5 to 10 year plans. And maybe some of the fans, it would be great if we looked into that, how fans can have more of a say, maybe have more shares, more equity, not specifically saying fan ownership, but maybe there could be a mix between fans and potential wealthy investors and whatnot, sponsors and whatnot as well. Anyway, moving on, I think I covered that point in enough detail. But any thoughts on that? Welcome. As ever, number 23. Once again, I'd love for Celtic to have as much investment as possible through investors, sponsors, co-owners, shareholders, equity holders, and whatnot, and any sort of legal sources of income, as I often mention, the importance of legal. And again, I know I mentioned this point before, but just to reiterate, or just to remind myself and others, avoiding some of the pitfalls, like with Man City, Everton, and teams like that, like getting fines and getting points deductions and things like that. In Everton's case, they had a 10-point deduction, which seems a bit strange if they got the 10-point deduction and Man City haven't been punished yet. But considering they've had much more violations, but avoiding those violations. But so looking at maybe asking FIFA and UEFA, what is the biggest amount of money Celtic could legally get? I also hope the club will continue to do its good work with Celtic, with the Celtic FC Foundation, Football for Good stuff, and hopefully get back into helping some of the more, not just people in Glasgow or even the UK, but also all around the world, especially in developing nations. Number 24, as a worldwide. And I would love for the club to have as many supporters, fan clubs and all that kind of thing. CSCs, which stands for Celtic Supporters Clubs, which is not a term I made, but that already exists. And a term I made up, I suppose, which I've now forgotten. CACs, or CAs, which could stand for Celtic Academies or Celtic Academy Clubs. Maybe I'm talking a little cack, but as usual. But sorry, lame attempt at humour there. But having as many Celtic academies as well as supports clubs in all possible countries globally, and helping develop nations and things like that, and people from former colonies helping Celtic. I also dream that Celtic will, on its website and on YouTube channel and social media generally, and as much as possible, just like the club sometimes celebrates, I think normally celebrates Chinese New Year, the Chinese New Year and things like that. They could learn about other cultures like Indian cultures, the Indian New Year and things like that, and also celebrate all former colonies' Independence Days, like St. Patrick's Day. Obviously, I don't know if that's actual Independence Day, but in India's case, India's Independence Day, Malaysia, China, Indonesia, and all sorts of countries across Asia and Africa, Kenya, South Africa, and places like that celebrate their special occasions and dates and things like that, which I hope again will come back to benefit the club. I also hope to look at how the club can benefit countries that were colonised, which again hope to come to. Number 25, I'd love for people who support Republicans in the sense of people who support republics, to support Celtic and see how they could benefit the club, like supporting the club, buying the merchandise, supporters. That's how fans get, I suppose, benefit a club. Having more fans hopefully will benefit as the fan base grows, all being well. I'd love for people from all over Republic countries, and also people who support republics. For instance, the Republic campaign group here in the UK, and people who just prefer republics all around the world, people from republics as well, will support Celtic. And again, Celtic could support Republic Days, like India's Republic Day, for instance, and countries around the world that are republics on their special occasions and things like that, especially India's Republic Day and things like that. But at the same time, I would love for Celtic to get a source of income from many nations, which many of the Arab nations seem to, especially the wealthy ones, seem to be monarchies. Sorry. So I hope they still somehow get funding from those as well. But I'd love for them to get funding from monarchies and republics, although I would prefer the club to support republics, which it does really, especially the fan base. And again, I'd love for people to find out facts about Celtic. Number 26, Celtic and anti-imperialism. I dream that they will be rewarded for their anti-imperialism, and people, again, from former colonies and anti-imperialists generally around the world. I use this controversial term, perhaps. I didn't think it was that controversial, but POC, short for people of colour. In other words, or you can use whichever term you want, like here in the UK, it could be BAME, Black, Asian, and Minority Ethnic, or POC, or whatever term you want to use, like so Black, Asian, mixed race, Native American, and Latino or Hispanic people. And I know Celtic normally favours Palestine, but around the world, many people, including Jewish people, rabbis even, support Palestine. So, although I'm personally more neutral and I'm on the side of peace, I hope that the club can still have supporters. I even dream that the club will have all possible non-WASP support, so people who are not white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, so like people who are Catholic or from other religions, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, or any other religion, even Jewish, to support Celtic. I assume Zionists would not, but maybe Jewish people who are not Zionists, which there are many of, which I've seen and heard of. And also, I think of, I nearly forgot this point, but sorry, I know this video has gone on a bit, but I do try and keep them short. But I really wanted to say about reparations and anti-imperialist support in Celtic and helping Celtic. Maybe Celtic could work with former colonies, as I say, to look at what helping them to get reparations, at the same time helping to get reparations for the club. So for what the Irish community went through with the potato famine and discrimination they suffered in Glasgow and other parts of Scotland and the UK. And they could work with the Irish diaspora, even like Hibs. Maybe that could bring Celtic and Hibs and other clubs with Irish roots, and even whether that's in Ireland or around the world, from the Irish diaspora to support Celtic, including maybe legally, and maybe looking at what lawyers they could get to ensure that they get the legal support for reparations and things like that. But anyway, maybe I should have got this point out of the way first, but unfortunately in the history of Celtic, and I know I mentioned this a while back, but there was an abuse scandal which happened at the boys club in Celtic, and not sure the boys club still exists, but I was thinking the victims should be reparated, and maybe even Celtic should try and look at how they can help victims of abuse and violence, including domestic abuse, violence and things like that, and victims of bullying, assault, or again domestic violence or domestic abuse, or all sorts of people who abuse, especially children, and look at what they could learn from mistakes that happened in the past and ensure that children are safeguarded. And yeah, look at how to reparate those the victims, and even victims generally perhaps, but I'm not sure how much that would cost and how much it would cost compared to whether that would be more than the reparations Celtic would get for the historical abuses that happened to the Irish people and to the Irish diaspora under colonialism, under British colonialism. But again, I've got to admit, I don't really know the figures on each side and how much Celtic could get in reparations for the harsh treatment of the Irish, the abuses of the Irish and the diaspora, potato famine and discrimination they faced when fleeing Ireland, fleeing poverty, to come to Glasgow in their case, and again working with Hibs and whatnot. But I definitely think they should reparate any abuse victims, also learn from it, and also help abuse victims generally if they can, depending on the finances of the club. But I would still love for the club to get funding from like the Lottery for Good and from the SNP and political parties in Scotland, in Glasgow and across Scotland, and Celtic countries, even Plaid Cymru, Sinn Féin and others, Fianna Fáil, however you pronounce it. So political parties in, as I say, Celtic countries like Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and even Cornwall perhaps, and places like that. But yeah, so I do think they should use, and again, I don't know whether that would be more or less than the amount we would have to pay out for the victims of abuse, if we were, which I think the club should do, which would be the right thing to do, and put the past right, if you know what I mean. I don't know if I know what I mean, but and also learn from to ensure children are safeguarded in the future. Yeah, I think that covers everything. Point number 26. Number 27, I would love for the club to honour and acknowledge its heroes. I haven't talked about like the Walk, Antrim or Hall of Fame, which they could have, like where famous names could be on the wall, or like Hollywood has a Walk of Fame, they could have that as well, things like that. So, and also on the club's official site and on YouTube, so they could have honours and awards for those who have contributed to the club. And also I hope the club will be rewarded for the charitable work it does, again through getting funding for Lottery for Good causes, and from the SNP and others, trying to help them to get good funding so that they can help children in Glasgow to get into football and get fit and improve their fitness and diets and health and things like that, and keep them out of crime and that kind of thing. Number 28, again, I hope Celtic can make the world a better place and turn negatives into positives. Number 29, if I'm really dreaming, I would love to create the neurodiverse billionaires network, including the dyslexic billionaires network, and to invest in town football teams and Celtic and hopefully benefit them. And also I'd love to give 20% of whatever money I have, if above what I need to live on. So if I found out I needed 20k a year, if I live quite frugally and I could live off 20k a year, but I had more money than that in my account, I would love to donate to things like Celtic, and I would love to give 20% of whatever excess money I have that I don't need. Instead of paying taxes, I dream to be able to donate to Celtic. And on that note, it would be pretty cool if Celtic could be like a tax exempt club, but even like people could choose to give their taxes to the club, either the foundation itself or even the club itself. And I also dream for my fellow mutts, as I often call us jokingly, my fellow mixed race people, in other words, and people of colour, as I say, just generally black, Asian, mixed race, Native American, Latino, and Hispanic, and possibly even Jewish people, or non-WASPs, people who are not either white, Anglo-Saxon Protestants, to support Celtic. Obviously, we need some competition to make things interesting. However, number 30, finally. Sorry, I did go on a lot longer than planned, but I would love for, and I meant to mention this probably in point number 13, but forgot, or for whatever reason didn't do it. I didn't think of the idea till later, so that could be good for number 13 because of my patterns and things like that. But I myself am not Catholic, if I'm honest. In fact, I think that Catholicism is a false version of Christianity and sort of twisted things like that. But at the same time, our arch rivals, our nearest and dearest, hate Catholics, and they hate Celtic because of the historical Catholic connections. So I was thinking, what if, out of sort of spite or revenge for them, what if Catholic organisations, or even the Vatican, or all sorts of Catholic organisations, invested into Celtic? So I know I often say I probably shouldn't say this, or I probably shouldn't admit to this, which is one of my infamous lines, but what if Catholic organisations invested in Celtic? And even though I've said like Catholicism is like a false version of Christianity in my view, or twisted things, you might think that would put them off, but at the end of the day, Rangers sort of do actually hate Catholics, so maybe sort of stick one or two fingers up to them. It would be pretty cool for Catholics and Catholic organisation, or even the Vatican itself, to invest in Celtic FC. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Sorry, it went longer than planned. I gave my life story in the intro, but I am out. Peace and up.